three distinct areas when it comes to measuring HRV. There's time domain analysis, which is basically it's looking at the gap between heartbeats and then really a standard deviation of that. So really the variation, very simply put, that's what it is. And there's one index in the time domain analysis called RMSSD, which stands for the root mean squared of the standard deviations of all R2R intervals, which is why we nicely abbreviated to RMSSD. And that's probably the measure, well, it is the measure that most apps that you see out there at the moment use to measure your HRV. And the reason being is because it's very good under normal, like, ambulatory conditions. So waking in the morning, you don't really need to control your breathing. It's quite simple to measure. And you can, if you have the gap between heartbeats, you can almost calculate it yourself. So it's a pretty simple, good measure to have. It's got good consistency. It's been shown to have a low coefficient variation in studies compared to the other indices. So that's generally the one that we use. But the other two domains are the frequency domain analysis. And that's more looks at high frequency and low frequency of change. So if you imagine that something is changing very frequently, it has, if something's changing very frequently, it has obviously high frequency of change, and that's high heart variability linked to parasympathetic activity, whereas the low frequency of change is more linked to, it's thought to be linked to more of the sympathetic side. But the high frequency units are actually a very good unit to use, but they're more influenced by breathing. So you really have to control your breathing due to something called this respiratory sinus arrhythmia. That's important to consider. Just to get into that, the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, it's basically what you need to know is that when you exhale, you influence more parasympathetic activity. When you inhale, you influence more sympathetic activity, and that's to do with your thoracic, the way the pressure changes in your heart with the thoracic breathing. Hi, Dr. Dan Plews here, back on the Physical Performance Show, this time talking about one of my very favorite topics, heart rate variability.